from North Dakota, Mr. Armstrong, for 5 minutes.
Before I get into my questioning, I just want to address a couple things that were mentioned earlier. And regardless of the different debates, I think it's important to recognize that products that use marginally less energy are never going to be a substitute for generation. And earlier there were talks about PJM exporting power to MISO and SPP during significant weather events. That only works if the donor RTO has the sufficient generation. You can have all the interconnection in the world, but if the generation isn't there, transmission is a second thought. And I know this because during the Texas winter storm, it was 27 degrees below zero in North Dakota. That event happened from the Canadian border all the way to the Gulf of Mexico. So, Director Ortiz, one of the goals of the Office of Electric Reliability is to coordinate with ISOs and RTOs, among other entities, to facilitate electric reliability and security. Can you briefly explain what that coordination looks like?
The Office of Electric Reliability's responsibilities have to do with implementing Section 215, which, as I stated in my testimony, has to do with certifying and overseeing the Electric Reliability Organization, which is NERC. My office and my staff work closely with NERC and its stakeholders, which are heavily represented by the RTO, which the RTOs participate significantly in across their various committees. And through those processes, we're able to identify the technical issues and work through solutions to reliability issues.
So you're aware of FERC evaluating RTO load forecasting. And can you briefly explain how this forecast has an impact on generating units?
I didn't actually say that, but the commission also engages closely with the RTOs regarding their planning processes as part of its work on ensuring just and reasonable rates. And so on that matter regarding their to the degree that their load forecasts are requiring them to take actions with their stakeholders, that's a question for the Director of the Office of Energy Market Regulation.
And I bring that up because I don't think we talk about the economics of power generation nearly enough when we have this conversation. We talk about reliability, resiliency, transmission, all of that. And during a hearing earlier with the commissioners earlier this year, I mentioned that I have serious concerns about purposeful skewing of load forecasting to benefit weather-dependent generation over baseload or dispatchable sources. Generators in North Dakota have raised concerns that MISO has been under-forecasting load, which incentivizes distributed generation at the expense of baseload generation. Load forecasts that are based on preferred political outcomes rather than reliability jeopardize the overall well-being of the grid. And we know that the Sierra Club and the NRDC have evaluated influencing PJM forecasting because these organizations claim that PJM is muting price signals that are essential to attracting, their words, the right kind of resources, also known as renewables. Meanwhile, the North American Electric Reliability Corporation has noted that RTOs, like MISO, can face challenges in meeting above normal peak demand if wind generator energy output is lower than expected. So the Sierra Club and the NRDC want RTOs to have a lower load forecast to support the development of wind, but at the same time, the nation's chief reliability evaluator says that this can make the grid more unreliable. In its after-action report of the 2022 winter storm, SPP explicitly mentioned that the importance of fuel assurance and resource adequacy are essential parts of responding to future reliability events. So shouldn't resource adequacy be the foundational to this conversation?
NERC has made it clear throughout its history that resource adequacy and operating reliability are the two tenets of reliable operations.
Mr. Rodriguez?
Yeah, absolutely. Resource adequacy is one critical component in reliability overall.
Do you think the oversight, or do you think there should be more oversight or more independent auditing over the auction process?
I honestly don't have an opinion about that. My expertise and the focus of my office and my work is really on ensuring reliability through making an American grid that's up to 21st century standards. The market mechanisms is not something I work on.
The problem with the market mechanisms, if they're underselling it, we're still going to need the power. And if we're under forecasting it, we're still going to end up needing the power. And they have to figure out how to keep the lights on for the other 360 days a year. So the 5 days a year when it's 35 below in North Dakota when we really need it, that they can actually supply the power we need when the sun's not shining and the wind's not blowing. And with that, I yield back.